Welcome to The Gathering.
Welcome to The Gathering and our podcast on the other American Revolution. When we think about the American Revolution, what most often comes to mind are the founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the great battles over 8 long years that finally led to the creation of our nation. But as important as the revolution in ideas and military revolution were, there was another revolution, equally important and often overlooked. This was the social revolution that began shortly after peace was established. This revolution totally changed both how people saw themselves and how they related to each other. In a diverse society where people came from different nations and had different religions, one could no longer base a society on race, religion, or tribal membership. To hold the nation together, something new was required. To realize how great a revolution this was, we have to first understand what the social structure of the colonies was like before 1776. Prior to that time, colonists thought of themselves fully as Englishmen and women. They saw themselves as loyal subjects of the king. So much so that during the French and Indian War, large numbers of colonists enlisted to fight against the French, despite the fact that it was largely a European conflict. And the colonial economy was largely governed by the British Navigation Acts. As subjects of the king, they lived in a hierarchical society. There was the king, lesser aristocrats below him. Then came gentlemen with landed estates. You could call them aspiring aristocrats. And then everybody else. This hierarchical structure was reinforced by religion, with sermons often devoted to the structure of society and the duty of the subjects within it. This structure was reinforced by religion, which was at that time the foundation of culture, and can be seen in the sermons of such religious leaders as Jonathan Edwards and Thomas Craddock. According to Edwards, all have their appointed office, place, and station according to their several capacities and talents, and everyone keeps his place and continues in his proper business. According to Craddock, everyone keeping his station and employing his respective abilities in doing his own work, all might receive advantage. Keeping your place and station was critical to this system. Power flowed from the aristocrat or gentleman to whose network you were connected. They provided both protection and advancement. It was a society that Defoe described as having a sort of patriarchal affection as well as obligation between a king on the throne and the people he governs. Or in the words of South Carolina Governor James Glenn, approach the Almighty with reverence, the Prince with submission, thy parents with obedience, and thy master with respect. It was a highly structured, class-based society of close relationships and mutual obligations. But all of that began to change after the Revolution. People began to see themselves no longer as subjects, but as citizens. Equality became a dominant force. Instead of royal governors and minor aristocrats, ordinary people came into government as rulers. Artisans and tradesmen could be elected to high office. Social hierarchies collapsed, and instead of reciprocal personal relationships of protection and advancement, people were now driven by enterprise and self-improvement. People were now respected not by virtue of birth and class, but by their accomplishments. De Tocqueville described this as a whole new society melting into a new and dominant middle class with everyone being industrious and behaving in the same respectable way. The ties that now bound people together were the family and religion, as they were before, but instead of hierarchical relationships binding people together, they were now bound in a new way by relations of trade and commerce. To experience in a small way how great this revolution was, could you imagine today being told that you should stay in your station and submit to your superiors? Could you imagine having to defer to the judgment of someone supposedly superior to you just by reason of their birth or being barred by public office? Of course not. We may admire the wealthy or those with power, but we do not see them as better or different from ourselves. And we do not think that we would be barred from achieving what they have because of our birth. In a relatively brief period after the American Revolution, the contours of our modern society were created. It was no less revolutionary than the new form of government created. The idea that all men are created equal began to have real meaning, a meaning that would grow and mature over later years and continue to mature today. It was a real revolution. For The Gathering, I'm Leonardo Radomile. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you heard, give us a quick thumbs up and subscribe. To learn more about The Gathering and our free course, check out our webpage. You'll find the link below.